Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Head in the Office. We're on episode 3.
Third time's a charm.
My name's Jeremy.
I'm Gage.
We got a loaded episode today. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. On the docket today, we're going to talk about Biden's town hall that happened not too long ago, some updates on the January 6th commission in the House, Jeff Bezos riding on a penis rocket into space for 10 minutes, and we got some updates on climate in the Northwest. But first, a little bit of an update on our posting schedule. As you've probably already noticed, we're going to be posting on Wednesdays at noon.
Right at noon.
Right at noon is when all the pods
baby.
are going to go up. That'll be our regular posting schedule. We'll probably be able to stick to it. But if you join the Patreon as a patron, you'll be able to view those episodes on Monday.
Exactly.
2 days early.
You know.
If you become a patron, you have early access to all of our episodes and some other exclusive content that we will create for you. So
leave suggestions, you know.
Become a patron. There's three
Do
options.
whatever you want.
Three options
exactly.
for monthly
you got
payments.
3
You can become
packages, baby. Peep them on the website.
You can become a patron, help support the show, and also get access to some exclusive content. That link will be in the description for anyone that wants to join as a patron.
Right. Description on YouTube. However the fuck you get to it on Spotify. What is it? Show notes, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't really know.
You can go in the show notes on Spotify or wherever else you're listening. Reminder, leave a 5-star review whenever it's on Apple.
Yeah, once it eventually gets to Apple, please, I'm begging to leave a 5-star review.
We've been saying this for 3 weeks, but whenever it gets on Apple, hopefully it'll be soon.
Hopefully it's this Wednesday at noon.
Might have to argue with the Apple people. Might have to.
Might
invite them on for a debate.
Might have to fight big tech.
Invite them on the pod for a debate.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Gage and I are fighting against big tech in Silicon Valley.
You know me.
Anyways, become a patron. We're posting on Wednesdays. Leave a 5-star review when you can. Check out the YouTube too.
Please like and subscribe on the YouTube.
Let's get into it. Let's get into the news.
All right.
Let's get into the news. So first up, we got the Biden town hall. This took place on January 21st at I think like 8 p.m. Eastern time or something like that in Cincinnati. Was hosted by Don Lemon of CNN.
Oh my god.
And I will say he actually did a pretty good job.
He did.
I like Don Lemon.
A lot of what he was doing was just kind of like clarifying what Biden was saying though.
Okay.
And that got really annoying. He's like, actually, I think you mean this. Like, so you really mean this, especially when they started talking about the police stuff, which we'll get to towards the end of the town hall coverage.
Yeah, but I think Don Lemon did a pretty good job. I mean, people are gonna say that he was biased, but like CNN being biased, that's not new.
Project Veritas is gonna be all over this.
Like CNN being biased is not new. Every news source is gonna be biased. They're all hacks that are just trying to make money, anyways.
Exactly.
But overall, I thought the town hall was pretty underwhelming. Mm-hmm. In all of his answers,
incredibly
none of it was really
fucking mid.
Yeah, I didn't love it. We're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff that Biden answered, like different questions from the crowd. A lot of his answers were pretty like lackluster,
Bare
I guess.
minimum.
Not really giving me a whole lot of hope for the progressive future, but like it is what it is. But I did like Don Lemon and what he did. He had a couple of good moments, especially around voting rights, talking about his grandmother and stuff. But anyways,
filibuster shit. Yeah, overall he had like maybe 2-3 based points.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. Okay.
But whatever.
Right.
The first thing he talked about was COVID. The first question was, is the virus in the retreat? Biden said something along those lines like a couple of months ago when he first came into office that
it was running rampant.
Yeah, vaccines were rolling out, is running rampant. And then once we got vaccines rolling out, the virus is in retreat, basically. Like we're winning. And the question was, is the virus really in retreat? And Biden says the pandemic is only really among the unvaccinated.
Yeah. He said this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, which is not wholly true, but we'll get into it in a little bit.
Right. The data does agree that vaccines prevent death and hospitalization if you contract COVID.
They largely prevent it, and they just drastically decrease transmissibility amongst vaccinated people. And this is also backed up by the fact that we're seeing Alabama and Louisiana, and more southern states spike right now in COVID cases and COVID deaths, and we know that those are the largely most unvaccinated states in the union. And it's like that especially holds when you see that the vaccinated parts, Democratic strongholds like California and New York, are doing okay, minus LA County.
I was just about to say LA County. But he did actually mention a little bit later on, and this was a little bit further on in his answer on vaccines, but most of the cases that are popping up, say for a few of the big cities, because bigger the population, the more infections there are going to be. He did say most of the cases are originating in red states because they refuse to get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Like, we've got sub 50% vaccination rates in some of these red states, which is really bad, especially when we're talking about the Delta variant, or what's the new one?
Lambda
variant that just popped up. So It's not good to see this. Get vaccinated if you haven't already.
Facts. Get vaccinated if you're able to, like.
And the next thing he said about vaccines, which I'm no scientist, but I kind of disagree with him on this point.
Yeah.
Biden kind of doubled down on the idea that you don't need a mask if you're vaccinated,
Mm-hmm.
which in my opinion, when the CDC said like you can take the mask off, that was a misstep by the Biden administration.
100%.
And it was a misstep by not state legislatures, but it was a misstep by states around the country that said you no longer need a mask if you're going out in public or you're in a crowded space. The science does say that if you're vaccinated, you should be okay. But what we've seen with the Delta variant and some breakthrough cases is that wearing a mask is never going to be a bad idea.
Never a bad idea. And also the Delta variant is rampaging like 22 to 27, like the younger age groups that the other variants and base COVID was not going through.
It's so funny. The exact age groups that thought they were like invincible and didn't need a vaccine because
are
they're
about
young.
to get shit on.
Yeah. And it just makes me worried. And I know that Biden is saying that because saying that you don't need a mask encourages you to get a vaccine because it's a kind of a reward almost for getting a vaccine. Is like, you don't got to wear the mask anymore. But it worries me because we're seeing these spike in cases. We're seeing more breakthrough cases with the Delta variant than we saw with other variants. Mm-hmm. So I feel like encouraging mask wearing again isn't a bad idea. And even LA County, most populous county in the country, I think, had to reinstate mask mandates.
Yeah.
Because they have a massive spike in cases, and I can only imagine that other counties are going to follow suit.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of mask mandates, in St. Louis, they announced that they were going to reinstate a mask mandate amid rising COVID-19 cases, but then the state's attorney general turned around and said he was going to challenge it.
What state was that?
St. Louis.
Louisiana?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Which
sounds
is
about
getting
right.
shit on right now.
Yeah. I mean, just about every red state is. I think it was like Biden said something like 4 or 5 red states are accounting for most of the cases right now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Of the Delta variant.
I saw some map on Axios where it's like the southern states never eat soggy waffles west of Virginia,
Yeah, sure. Biden also went on to disproving the idea that the vaccines were rushed, which I think is good because there's this misconception that because the vaccines were produced quickly, that means they're ineffective.
They've been working on this technology for 20 years since the first pop-up of SARS. And even like, what was it? When did MERS pop up again?
I don't remember.
Middle Eastern respiratory virus. It was like, I want to say between like 6 and 8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. But here's why this talking point is stupid. Because the vaccines started to be produced while Trump was in office. The same people that love Trump are saying that the vaccines were produced too quickly.
This is shit
and in the same breath, they praise Trump for creating the vaccines quickly. Yeah. It's a stupid talking point.
It's the same thing we were talking about last week when we highlighted CPAC Dallas, when they cheered for Trump, talking about how he brought the vaccines quickly, yet I bet 2% of them were actually vaccinated.
Right. It doesn't make any sense. And like Biden said, and like Gage reiterated, they've been working on this technology for 2 decades now. And I think people got confused because I was looking at the comments under like the CNN YouTube post, and they were saying like, COVID's only been around for a year. How would they work on this for 20 years? And it's like, you don't understand how immunology works, obviously.
And they don't understand just the full name of the SARS-CoV-2.
Yeah.
Like, it's the SARS virus. It's an iteration of the Middle Eastern respiratory virus, which was SARS, like, way back when.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a while, along with mRNA technology, too.
The talking point that it was rushed is so dumb. It's so full of holes. And the vaccines are safe. They've been rigorously tested, more so than some regular drugs that people take every day.
Yeah.
Like, these COVID vaccines have been more tested than like the regular ibuprofens you buy from Rite Aid. Like, come on, they're safe. They've been tested on thousands of people. You are much safer if you get the vaccine than if you just face COVID yourself without a vaccine.
Yes, 100%. Piggybacking off of that, there was another quote from Biden where he said, "If you're vaccinated, you will not get COVID." And it's like, dog, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt here and say that you just riffed because you're old. You're like, however the fuck old, whatever. But you cannot be saying that shit.
Yeah, no,
we know
it's
more and more breakthrough cases are happening each and every day. And also, statements like that just can fuel conservatives.
Yeah.
I bet you I'm going to see a fuck ton of Instagram posts just talking about Biden said this. Actually, my cousin who was vaccinated got COVID, so this is wholly untrue, which is fair. But then because people just think it's all either Democrats or Republicans, they're going to flock over to the Republican side, especially people in the center, and it fuels the outrage machine.
Yeah, and it's it's stupid because it's not even like we're nitpicking here, because this answer actually does matter.
Yeah,
it's not like we're saying like,
100%.
oh, you just need a little bit more nuance. Breakthrough cases are still rare, but they are less rare with the Delta variant. That's the point.
And Delta and the upcoming Lambda variant.
Yeah, that's
we
the
don't
point.
even know what that's going to do.
Is that the new variants are breaking through more often than previous variants
Yes.
did, which is reason for concern, especially since we're not vaccinated at a high enough rate to protect against these variants on a mass scale.
And we weren't vaccinated quick enough to prevent these variants from happening anyway.
Exactly.
Viruses can't replicate outside of a human host cell. Like
Mm-hmm.
outside of a human host. They can only replicate as much as they're being transmitted between person to person.
Yeah, which is why it was so important that we hit, what was the threshold? Was it 75 or 80% that
It was
the Biden admin is aiming for?
70 or 75%
Yeah,
of
somewhere in
the
there.
entire population, which we hit 68% of the adult population.
Yeah. So we just didn't get far enough, and kids still can't take these vaccines. So it's, look, we're not going to make any predictions here. I don't know what's going to happen with the variants.
For real.
But based on trends that have happened in other countries with the new variants, based on what's happening in California, places like LA County, and
We
also
saw
the
what
red
happened
states,
in
it's worrying.
India.
Yeah.
We saw what happened in India, what was that, a month ago? 2 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, they surpassed us in their death toll, I
Yeah,
think.
they got shit on.
Yeah.
It was
It's-
ridiculous.
It's not good to see. So Biden saying that you're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations, it's just not true. But you should still get vaccinated regardless.
100%, because your chances of getting COVID are much less, and your chances of dying or being hospitalized if you do have COVID, much, much less.
Yeah, significantly less. But I wish he would explain further what is happening with vaccines. Maybe he just,
Exactly.
I don't know. He's the president of the United States. There's no excuse that can be made for him. If we can articulate this point, he should be able to
Yeah.
as well. He did make a good point about misinformation, though, because somebody asked about what is the White House doing to combat misinformation around vaccinations. There was a recent study that came out that revealed that most misinformation stems from 12 people on Facebook.
Yep.
12.
45% of misinformation stems from 12 people.
A dozen.
Yeah.
Like 12 people create most of the misinformation that like your parents see that they then regurgitate to you, which is insane. And when I was watching this, I heard the question about misinformation, and I thought he was just going to lament on about how we need to get people to trust the government,
Yeah.
yada yada.
Which he did.
Which he did at
he
first.
later did.
But I'm glad he brought up Facebook, because recently he did say Facebook is killing people, and
Yeah.
it's true when it comes to COVID. Recently, I think it was about a week ago, a couple days ago, the top trending post on Facebook was from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she was saying
God,
how
that devil.
something about how vaccines are not going to work against COVID.
Yeah.
Which is insane to think. Top trending on Facebook. Facebook has millions and millions of people on it. Billions, maybe. I don't know the exact numbers. Don't hold me to it. But
Yeah.
these statistics are insane. And the fact that 12 people are it's a group of 12 people that are peddling almost all the misinformation on this platform is ridiculous.
Speaking of misinformation, he also hit on another really good point when he was asked specifically about the African American community
Yeah.
and misinformation with them, which I was disappointed that he glanced over this, but he mentioned how historically the black community has been used as guinea pigs in vaccine and other medical trials, like what was it, polio vaccine? And
Yes.
syphilis?
Yeah, syphilis. and
Syphilis,
polio.
they were just given syphilis by the U.S. government. He glanced over it, which I was disappointed by, but I'm not surprised. Old white guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then he started talking about how, which I thought was a good point, a teenager, if his friend gets the vaccine and he sees that he's okay, he might start to change his mind. When they see people they respect getting the vaccine and being okay, they'll change their minds.
Yeah, he made this point about media figures getting the vaccine.
Yes.
He brought up Tom Brady specifically, but really anybody. If you see someone that you look up to, like you said, getting the vaccine, it'll look better to you getting it. But not only just media figures, but media figures that resonate with communities that are apprehensive about getting the vaccine is
Yes.
very important.
Talked about clergy.
Right. We think that media representation is important in general, because if you can't see yourself
If you
in
don't-
someone
yeah.
that is successful, then that's going to hinder your success or your prospects of success as a child. But if
Exactly.
you see someone getting inoculated that you trust or that you believe in or that you watch on TV, that is also important. So yeah, it is a really good thing that he said that, but I'm also upset that he glanced over the fact that a lot of people in the black community are worried because the U.S. government has been historically
Just completely
abhorrent,
justifiably.
abhorrent towards the black community when it comes to medications
Yeah.
and diseases and stuff like that. But another point he did make was that he brought up how some right-wing pundits and Republicans have had some kind of like change of heart about the vaccine,
Yes.
which was like,
We see that specifically in Fox News. Who was it? Hannity flubbed
Hannity.
the other night and said that he got the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then the next night or 2 nights later, he immediately corrected and he's like, well, I didn't say to go get the shot, but I don't know. You know?
Hannity went on kind of a weird rant almost about how like you need to make the personal decision to talk with your doctor about getting a vaccine, talk with medical professionals. It was surprisingly a pro-vaccine message.
Yeah,
Like he wasn't saying it won't work, which is good.
Fox
Don't get
News
me wrong.
routinely runs pro-vaccine ads where they show like there are other pundits on there who have been like, get the shot. I got the shot.
Right, and let's not forget that Fox News requires all of their anchors and workers to be vaccinated. They have a vaccine
Carlson
passport
and
system.
Hannity are vaccinated.
Yes. Yeah, they are. And I mean, the right-wing pundits that talk about vaccinations so much are just exploiting the issue because they know it pisses people off, and they can get people on their side by talking about how either vaccines are ineffective, they were rushed, or whatever else it may be. So it's weird they're having this change of heart. I don't know what's causing it, but we're letting these people off too easy.
Oh, 100%,
They have been
yeah.
peddling conspiracy around the vaccines for months now, and we just let them get off the hook because they changed their rhetoric like once.
All in
Are
the
you
spirit
kidding?
of civility politics, baby.
Right, they don't deserve to get off that easy. We need to
Not
look
at
at them
all.
and be like, okay, call out your colleagues that are saying the vaccines don't work still, or do something else to prove that you actually believe vaccines can work, because we're letting these people off way too easy.
Even within Fox News, there is so much internal inconsistency between like, God, what is it? The daytime crew, Dana
Yeah,
Perino, Brett
yeah.
Mayer, 6 p.m. They're like still shitheads, but they're kind of okay sometimes. And then you just go off the rails. You get Tucker, Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and then you see the FoxNews.com articles, which are usually kind of just okay.
Yeah.
Like just regular pieces of news. It's not the partisan trash that the 9 p.m. and primetime slots are.
You know, here's the thing, is that the pundits that exist on Fox News and other like far right wing sites, they have peddled these conspiracy theories about vaccines not working and that COVID wasn't that dangerous for so long. The damage is already done.
Oh, yeah.
Millions of people have heard what they have to say around vaccines. Millions of tweets and Facebook posts have trended that say something along the lines of vaccines don't work, COVID isn't real, you're not going to get hurt, don't get vaccinated, that kind of stuff. The damage has already been done. They do not deserve to get off the hook this easily.
Thousands of Instagram meme pages, conservative Instagram meme pages, have been inspired and
Yes.
started their own disinformation campaigns because of this.
Tucker Carlson regularly talks about how it's suspicious that people are still getting COVID even though they're vaccinated. Maybe you shouldn't get the vaccine.
Yeah.
We're talking about how you don't actually need to wear a mask if you're unvaccinated. It's ridiculous.
If vaccines work, then why people get COVID?
Yeah, it's all of their arguments are so stupid. They do not deserve to get off the hook easily. I'm upset that Joe Biden praised them to begin with, because they deserve no fucking praise. They are terrible human beings that are going to get your grandmother killed because they're talking
real,
about how
bro.
vaccines don't work.
If vaccines work, why mask?
Yeah, just don't listen to these
Yeah.
people. They need to have a tougher time. Anyway,
One final note about like the COVID portion of Biden's town hall. He was asked about like when scientists will come to a consensus about whether or not we should have kids 12 and under vaccinated.
yep.
And this dude said, I'm just going to listen to the scientists, Jack. And everyone clapped. Everyone
Maybe-
clapped multiple times when he said that.
Maybe this is a result of Trump never listening to scientists on anything.
Just being his own dude. Hey, maybe if you just drink some bleach, you can get rid of COVID.
Right. Maybe this is a result of Trump never said anything that ever made any fucking sense.
Yeah.
So maybe people are grading Biden on a curve here a little bit,
100%.
because Trump never the bar is set so incredibly low. It's so far
Massive.
below the ground.
Massive
that
grade inflation.
anything that you say that's like pro science, everyone's just like, let's go.
No fucking way. Let's get it.
Yeah, I know. It's just people lose their mind about science. You know what? Whatever.
It's like the Super Bowl in there.
I was surprised people even clapped for him at all. I mean, he was in Ohio, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, like half the people they asked were conservatives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, true unity, bipartisanship.
Yeah,
right here.
right in the spirit of
Gotta love
bipartisanship.
it.
Come on, Jack.
All right. The next big portion, and maybe even the rest of it for the most part, was about the economy. He got a bunch of questions about what he's doing to make sure the economy's coming back, stuff like that. The first question that he got was about inflation.
How do you ensure poor and middle class families aren't hurt by rising prices?
Yeah, that was the first question that he got, which is a stupid question for a couple of reasons. First of all, prices are at this point in time returning to what they were before COVID. Like, you'll see these charts that are posted by like conservative pundits where it's like gasoline is going up 80%, cars are going up 120%. It's like, these prices are ridiculous. Yes, I agree that people should not be paying this much for essential services or like transportation, stuff like that. But this is what the prices were before the pandemic, and Republicans did nothing to drive those costs down.
Yes. Also, there are other extraneous reasons for price increases right now. There's currently a shipping container shortage. Ships will dock in ports for like 2 weeks before they're able to unload. Ports are massively congested, and just a bunch of other like supply side issues that are going on as a result of like the recovering global economy from COVID, that prices are going to hike a little bit. Sucks.
Yep.
People can't afford things, but that's maybe because our minimum wage is a shit wage, which we'll touch on.
Maybe. And yeah, AOC made this point when she went on MSNBC, I think, but it's basically, this is about supply side economics.
Yeah.
A lot of industries right now are backed up on what they have to do, like the products that they have to complete, because they just don't have the materials to do it, or they don't have the workers to accomplish it, because like you said, we don't pay our workers enough in this country. So prices aren't really inflating in the sense that inflation is happening.
It's
just that prices are driving
purely
up.
monetary policy issue.
Yeah, no, it's not necessarily Biden's fault. And like most things, the president can't, or not like most things, but like most presidents, the presidents don't have control of the economy. The economy tends to exist separately from the president, if I'm saying that correctly.
No, yeah. Presidents just overall do not have as much power as the general public believes that they do.
Yeah.
You know, especially they're blamed for everything. They're given the credit for everything. It's, what was it? LBJ had the thing on his desk, the buck stops here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, presidents always get blamed or celebrated for how the economy goes, but it's not always up to them how it goes. So, like,
especially when you have massive supply side in the good way, not in the trickle down Reagan way. Like, supply side in the truly supply.
Especially when you come in off a pandemic. Like, if the pandemic is going away, the only direction for the economy to go is up. So it's not as if Biden is in control of it returning. He kind of just came in, and like I said, maybe he's getting graded on a curve here because of how awful Trump was. But the economy was only ever going to go up, to be fair. So
eventually, though,
right?
We don't know how COVID's going to pan out these next few months.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. As of right now, is what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Biden overall combated the idea of inflation, which was brought up in response to this question, but also Don Lemon asked about, like, how are all these public programs that you want to implement, is that going to impact inflation? Is that going to hurt the economy? Which is always a Republican talking point, and it's really annoying that he brought up.
Stupid shit.
Because, like, even if inflation happens a little bit because of these public programs that we implement, the amount of people that we help because of these public programs or increasing minimum wage or whatever
makes it worth it by orders of magnitude.
Yes. Yeah, makes it worth it so much more than, like, we should ever care about inflation happening. If people are doing better, who cares about inflation?
Yeah.
We can handle that.
A big part of this dude's answer was just talking about his new fair competition executive order, which is pretty good. I do like the order a lot, but a better answer would have just been to raise the minimum wage.
Yeah, he should have. I mean, he could have.
Which should have already been done.
Yeah, he could have used that as an opportunity to say, like, I'm now calling on Congress to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I know he's done that already and it didn't work, but I mean, it can only help your messaging to try again.
Exactly. That's what you should do. You should be ramming this in at any point that you can to get it, one, in the public's minds, and then that will get it in the fucking people that are supposed to represent the public's minds, and maybe we'll see a positive change. If this were Trump, he would be nailing that point home every single chance he could get, no matter what.
All the time. And, like, you may say that when it comes to convincing someone like Kyrsten Sinema or Joe Manchin about a $15 minimum wage, that Joe Biden saying it at a town hall isn't going to change their mind. Their mind's not getting changed anyway.
Exactly.
They aren't going to have a change of heart overnight with Joe Biden saying nothing, so you might as well press them publicly without saying their name directly. There's nothing bad that can happen from that, and it's on message.
It's about pushing the message to the people.
Yeah.
If the people are aware of it, something will eventually happen if there's enough uproar.
Yeah, like Gage said, that would have been a better answer. He did talk mostly about his executive order. He said something along the lines of companies should have to compete for workers, which is absolutely
we should
correct.
actually have a labor market if we're going to have markets at all.
Right. But if you're going to talk about the free market, companies should be competing for workers to work at their place of
exactly. You
industry.
shouldn't be able to fire a worker and then say you can never use this skill set at another company for at least a year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. The next thing that he was asked about was specifically the bipartisan infrastructure deal, because Ohio is a place that is crumbling quite literally.
Yeah.
So somebody asked him about how are you going to ensure that, or like, can we really count on bipartisanship? Is basically what the question was about. Like, can you really get Republicans to agree with you on anything when they're just a bunch of hogs and demons?
Well, of course, Jack.
Yeah, Joe Biden's answer was basically like, yeah, some Republicans are really good people, including the senator from Ohio, which is actually almost a verbatim quote.
He shouted out the senator from Ohio, and he
Rob
shouted
Portman.
out the governor.
Yeah, he shouted out Rob Portman, Senator Rob Portman from Ohio, and then he also shouted out the Ohio governor, calling them good Republicans. One of the good ones.
He mentioned that a lot. Talked about his Republican friends. I'm like, ooh, good luck.
It's so intoxicating because, like, Senator Portman isn't someone that is in the news that often. Like, I don't even really know who he is. I don't really know what he does.
Yeah, for real.
But I guarantee that he votes in line with Trump, or he did most of the time.
I mean, I'm sure we know he did. We know he voted against the stimulus package.
Yeah,
because every one of them
every
did.
Republican did. Like, it's so dumb that Joe Biden is still playing or flirting with this idea that Republicans are ever going to operate in good faith. They won't, because they don't care about people.
Oh, but Joe Biden believes, and I quote, that he can take his Republican colleagues at their word when he shakes their hand, because Joe comes from a tradition where when you shake your hand, you keep your word.
I fucking hate this guy. I can't stand
Those are quotes. Straight from the town hall.
How many times he shake Mitch McConnell's hand?
No wonder everyone hates this dude.
Yeah.
Like, shit.
Oh my
what
God.
a cuck.
Anyway, they talked specifically about the bipartisan infrastructure deal, which Biden said he's confident will pass, which is the one that's $1.2 trillion, $600 billion of which is actually new spending. The vote to proceed and just debate the bill is on Monday. Biden is confident that the vote to proceed is going to pass, and he said he's also confident that the vote to actually pass the bill he's confident that's going to happen as well, which is something that is kind of mind-boggling.
Which is total cap. Definitely not in its current state. I can guarantee you that.
Right, and which is dumb because even Republicans are working on this bill, but it's probably not going to pass because Republicans don't care.
Exactly. They will not vote for it unless it's everything that they want.
They have no reason to pass it. We talked about this in, I think, episode 1. We were talking about this infrastructure bill. I hope that it passes. It's got a lot of good stuff, and it would also pave the way for the reconciliation bill to pass, but I don't think it's something that will. But Biden did reiterate that infrastructure, revitalizing our infrastructure, even if it's just colloquially known as roads and bridges, is good for the economy. It's good for jobs. It's good for commerce.
And it needs to happen.
It's good for everybody, especially in a place like Ohio where you can't drive anywhere without like falling off the road.
And there's so much construction all the time, bro.
Yeah.
The Ohio Turnpike, don't even get me started.
Don't even get started on the Ohio
Bro.
Turnpike.
I was stuck on there for an hour. I had to pee coming from Pennsylvania there. An hour between rest stops, right? 2 miles before the rest stop. I got stuck in traffic for like 20 minutes. I felt like I was going to throw up. I had to pee so bad.
Yeah, it was a bad time. But I don't know. Biden is still holding on to this romanticized idea that he can get a bipartisan deal through, or that Republicans are going to continue to act as like
they're acting in good faith.
Right. He keeps thinking that they're going to act in good faith. And maybe this bipartisan deal will pass. Maybe they'll get it done. Maybe they'll get to 60 votes and it'll be fine. I just can't see it happening.
He said, and I quote, his Republican friends don't lie to him, and they want to do the right thing, and they're getting better and better each day, which is all cap, no brim.
Oh, my God. Here's the thing. Republicans have demonstrated time and time again that they will block bills that would help people, regular working class people or the lower classes, poor people in this country.
Just the working class in general.
Yeah. Republicans have demonstrated that they do not care about legislation that will help working class people, and they will block it any chance they get and just call it socialism.
Yes. Remember, right after they struck down the first round of the stimulus package, they held a vote to it would have amounted to $1 trillion tax cut for the wealthy, for the ultra wealthy, mind you, like mega millionaires, billionaires. All of them voted for it.
Yeah.
So what do they really want?
After we passed the last bipartisan, or not bipartisan, but the last stimulus bill, it was a 50-50 vote. They did it through budget reconciliation. And then Republicans claimed victory and said, like,
Yes.
I'm delivering stimulus to you. They all voted against it.
We're delivering you $1,200 checks.
The last round of stimulus, 0 Republicans voted for it.
Yes.
They do not have your best interest in mind. They do not care about you. They do not care about the working class.
And
I don't know why Biden keeps trying to convince himself these people are ever going to be good.
He's furthering the myth that these senators deliver on what they say they're going to do. When they never do, because they know that 98% of the American public, everyone who's not a fucking policy nerd like us and probably whoever's listening to this, is not going to look at voting records, doesn't really care about what's happening in the Senate currently, doesn't
Yeah.
even know what reconciliation is. I didn't.
Yeah, and this goes right into the next question that somebody asked him, which was, again, about bipartisanship. Biden made the point that he thinks Republicans are afraid to work with him because they don't want to lose primaries,
Oh my
which just
God.
means they are putting their ability to retain power
Yeah.
above delivering for their constituents.
And it's like, okay, to become a Democrat.
How is that not morally wrong?
Yes.
How is that not morally reprehensible? That you should be disgusted if you have a senator or a representative that is afraid to lose an election, so they won't deliver for
Just
you.
for them.
Just for themselves.
They said, fuck the thousands of people, the millions of people that I represent.
Yeah. And the reason they're afraid to lose primaries is because if they side with Biden, or if they vote to pass legislation that Biden endorses or the Democrats like, Trump will come after them in the media and they will get slaughtered among their constituency.
100%.
They are not providing for you because they want to hold on to power. That is disgusting. Their job is not to retain power. Their job is to provide for us through the government. That's what they're supposed to do.
Speaking of the Trump crowd turning their back on like people that kind of stray from the regular Trump message, Ron DeSantis is under fire right now because he started pushing vaccines just a little bit, gave it a little nudge. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
maybe people should take these, and people are furious with him.
Ron DeSantis, Florida governor, literally second place for the Republican primary in
Yes.
2024 behind Trump.
CRT Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, CRT Ron DeSantis is just saying maybe take the vaccines and people lose their mind.
Hate him.
It doesn't matter who you are. If you're not Donald Trump, then you are going to get destroyed if you say anything that is slightly good about any left policy.
Look what happened to Mike Pence.
Yeah.
They were going to fucking kill him.
Mike Pence is a demon, terrible human being, but they were going to hang that man
fucking
on January
kill
6th.
him.
They were going to kill that dude, and all he did was just go along with the Constitution.
Yeah, all he did was say, hey, yeah, maybe I don't think the election was stolen, actually.
For a group that says they care so much about law and order and the Constitution, they really don't give a fuck about law and order
Yeah.
or the Constitution.
Only when it's convenient for them.
And then Joe Biden also said that Republicans are usually in the right place. Like their mind is usually in the
Yes,
right spot. Directly after Don Lemon asked about Republicans refusing to be a part of the bipartisan committee to investigate January 6th. How are their heads in the right place if they're not willing to investigate a terrorist attack?
Yes, if they're not willing to just do literally just the bare minimum. I know it's so annoying on online discourse when people are talking about like the bare minimum. This is the bare minimum, but honestly, it's so true.
That would be like if a Democrat orchestrated 9/11 and then was like, we have to have full control of the committee that investigates 9/11.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
What is BLM Antifa? Trust me.
That is insane. To think that you could say Republicans' heads are in the right place when they're objecting to a committee that is supposed to investigate when the Capitol was raided, and they could have been killed themselves.
Yeah, they were gonna.
And we're gonna talk about the January 6th commission a little bit more later, but
Like-
it's insane to think these people are ever going to work with Democrats. It's not gonna happen. So just move on and do whatever you want to do anyway.
Exactly. Just ram shit through the Senate and especially hammer this message in to Joe Biden, Kirsten Sinema, Maggie Hassan,
Yeah.
whatever the 5 other senators were that voted no to the budget reconciliation or to add $15 minimum wage. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean,
Christ.
and that's a good point, is that it's not just Biden that's gripped by this illusion of bipartisanship. Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, and the others that you mentioned are more gripped by this idea of bipartisanship than he is. These Democrats are so stupid that they're not going to see the light of day in time for us to actually make any change before 2022 or 2024. It's just infuriating. Republicans don't care about you. Don't stop voting for them.
Not at all. Speaking of Republicans.
But now on to maybe my favorite part
oh,
of
God.
the entire town
The best
hall.
one. Dude was so mad.
Maybe my favorite part of the entire town hall. This Republican came up. He's a restaurant manager, owns like, was it 39?
No, he wasn't just a restaurant manager. He owned a company co-owned a company
Yeah.
that owned 39 restaurants across the U.S. Bro's a mega capitalist.
Oh yeah, and he basically had this long-winded question about like how his business is doing, etc. But his question was really, how do you incentivize workers to come back to work? Which is a stupid
Just
question.
the talking point. It's just a Republican talking point. You
Yeah.
know he's talking about UI, and that's it.
Right, and I'm looking into this dude's eyes, and I just know
looks
he wants to
dead.
debate.
He wants to cry.
He wants to cry. I know he wants to debate Biden so hard. He's got every single talking point in his
glazing.
head from Tucker
Just
Carlson.
everything firing on all cylinders in his brain. He's ready. He's ready.
He's just waiting. He's just jumping at the bits to talk about it.
Fucking own this old guy.
He wants to argue so bad, but Biden doesn't give him a chance to talk again. Neither does Don Lemon, so that was good. Biden's answer was basically that the bills that the Biden administration has worked to pass and the executive orders he'd signed have made sure that businesses like his that exist all across the country have been able to stay open despite
And
worker
he
shortages.
mentioned, like, verbatim, he's like, we've given billions of dollars to your industry specifically to make sure that you guys stay open.
Yeah. Biden said there is a shortage of employees, which is factually incorrect. There's not a shortage of employees in any capacity. Businesses just aren't
There's
offering
a
people
shortage
enough.
of people that are willing to simp for the current system.
Yeah. There's a shortage of people that are willing to subject themselves to terrible working
Yes.
conditions and terrible pay.
There's a shortage of bootlickers.
There is not an actual shortage of workers or employees. People just aren't going to accept bare minimum to go back to work. You're not offering them enough to work during a
People
pandemic.
are sick of it. And Joe Biden did hit on a good point when he said that if you're working 40 hours a week and making less than $15, you're living below the poverty line.
Yeah, you need to offer these people more. Joe Biden basically said, if you're not paying them $15 an hour, it's not enough.
Exactly. Which is kind of annoying because it took him a couple minutes to get there.
Yeah.
And then the whole time when he was about to get there and after he got there, he was like, I'm sure you, I don't know exactly what you pay at your restaurants and your company, but I'm sure it's good and everything. We're talking about all the other bad ones. It's like, don't sim for this guy.
Yeah.
Again.
This dude's a slimy person.
Exactly. Again, if this were Trump, he'd have just made fun of this dude.
Yeah.
He'd have called this dude a cuck.
Yeah.
Like, please, I need that back. It's the only good thing about him.
Like, you don't even have to go that far. You don't even got to make fun of the guy, but just hammer home on the idea that the only argument he's making is that people aren't coming back to work because of unemployment benefits, which is factually untrue.
And he did do that. He said there is no evidence to suggest that it's unemployment holding people back. You know? Like, put me up there, bro. I'd box this dude.
Let me just remind you, UEI is not a stable source of income. It can be taken away
Not
from
at
you
all.
at any time.
In the state of Michigan, it was taken away from you.
And some people had to pay back 200, 300% of what they got.
600,000, a little over 600,000 people in the state of Michigan were notified on like July 9th that they had to pay back everything that they received in unemployment benefits because of an error that they made at the beginning of the pandemic.
Which is insane. People get a leg up for one time and they get punished.
And it wasn't even their fault. It wasn't even fraud. It was the Michigan Unemployment Insurance Agency had, I think, 3 reasons that you could apply for unemployment and be approved that then they later did, a year later, said that actually, I don't think so anymore. And retroactively said, I need all that money back.
Yeah, exactly. Unemployment benefits are not a stable source of income. The national program even is ending soon that has been propping up state unemployment programs.
The national program is ending soon, and then states could individually vote to shoot down to end the extra $300 early.
Yeah, exactly.
States could also individually implement work search obligations.
Yeah.
Which
Michigan has.
We're
by the way.
still in a pandemic.
Exactly. If you want workers to come back to work and you're a business owner, pay them more. If you can't pay them more, then maybe your business is not going to exist as large as
maybe you
it
just
is right
fucking
now.
suck and eat shit.
Yeah. If you want workers right now and you have a shortage right now, you got to pay them more. And if you can't pay them more, you're not going to have that many workers. That's just how it goes.
Exactly. Like, sorry, guy.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the capitalist here. You should know that.
All right, the next part of the town hall I also really liked because it was about voter suppression. This guy came up, I think he was like a law student or something like that, and he asked about what Dems are really going to do to ensure that all the voter suppression acts that have been passed throughout the country are going to be overturned, prevented, stopped, whatever it may be. And he's basically saying that if you don't abolish the filibuster, do you really have a fighting chance? Are you going to be able to do anything to secure voting rights? And you know what Joe Biden said? He said, yeah, I think we can do it.
He said, yeah, we got it. I think we got it. But we got to go back to the old filibuster.
Yeah, that's basically his answer. And it was really the only part of the town hall where I saw Biden, talk quietly.
Yeah.
Because he was not sure of his answer here.
Good.
Yeah, which is good.
Rightfully
because
so.
He basically said, like, yeah, I think we can still do it even though the filibuster exists. And good thing Don Lemon started pressing him on this, talking about how, like, people that look like him, because Don Lemon's a black man, have a harder time voting. Historically, Don Lemon's grandparents have had a harder time voting. They were subjected to things like literacy tests. They would have to look at a jar and count how many jelly beans were in there to be able to vote, which is, like, ridiculous to think that
Fucking
we ever
stupid.
did that.
And then they're not even being represented.
Right. And then it doesn't even matter anyway.
And then some just shit lib or shit Republican can just come in and just filibuster.
And
they can read the dictionary for 24 hours and just
Yeah.
bam.
And Biden said the new voter suppression acts that have been implemented throughout the country, especially in places like Texas and Georgia, Florida.
Shouts out Texas. Shouts out Greg Abbott.
He called it Jim Crow on steroids.
Yeah.
Which is true, but it also obfuscates the idea that the filibuster isn't also a relic of Jim Crow. Because it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the filibuster has only ever been used to uphold Jim Crow laws and segregation and votes or laws that would expand voting rights to more people.
Laws that would make it harder for Republicans to win.
Yeah.
If we're talking real here.
Yeah, and Biden says the old filibuster is what he wants to come back. When he first joined the Senate, that's what he had. That's what he thinks should be in place right now. But in the same breath, he admits that the filibuster was used to stop civil rights legislation in the 60s by people that he just called very, very, very conservative.
Yeah, Strom Thurmond, very, very, very conservative.
Yeah,
guy.
Strom Thurmond was only just conservative. That's it.
That's it. Just
very
super
conservative
conservative.
person.
That's right. Big free market guy. That's probably about it, right?
Yeah. The filibuster has only ever been used to uphold terrible laws or prevent good laws from being passed. It has no business existing anywhere in a society that we want to call democratic.
It's just a bad, undemocratic measure.
Yeah.
And just fucking get rid of it. Like, you really wanted to... He's like, yeah, we should bring it... We should just make it painful, though. That's the same take Joe Manchin had.
Yeah.
Like, bro, when you and
Imagine
Joe
being
Manchin are on the same
I
page...
was about to say, imagine agreeing with Joe Manchin.
You know
on
you're doing
anything.
something wrong.
Mehdi Hassan made this point on his show. He basically said, how come a bunch of Republican legislatures can pass almost infinite voter suppression laws with no Democratic support, with a simple majority, but Democrats can't pass any voting rights legislation unless they have Republicans on board on the federal level?
Because they're cucks.
That doesn't make any sense. That is not democratic. If people came over from another country, if aliens came down from space and saw the system that we had set up with minority rule, they would say, what the fuck are you doing?
Exactly, especially when you see that it's extra minority rule, because Democratic senators and representatives represent thousands to millions more people than their Republican counterparts.
Exactly.
Even when you're in a 50-50 deadlock Senate, Democrats are representing more people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, millions.
millions more
Millions
people.
more people.
That's what should matter.
Yeah, and Biden basically said that this argument about voting rights in H.R. 1 shouldn't boil down to the filibuster, or the question of the filibuster, but it does. It has to, fundamentally, because you can't put voting rights in budget reconciliation. It doesn't have to deal with the budget in any major way. So it's got to go through the filibuster or regular order. So it's got to pass 60 votes, and you can't do that right now because Republicans are never going to vote for voting rights.
Wouldn't even be possible to get 51.
Yeah, and he said if you get rid of the filibuster, it's going to throw Congress into chaos, which is
It's already chaos.
an insane take because it's already chaos.
Nothing fucking gets done anyway.
I mean,
The filibuster makes it chaos.
exactly.
If you get rid of the filibuster, it will just look like what it would look like if we had a Republican majority in the Senate.
Yeah, and I
you'd
think,
just be ramming through bills, which is cool.
yeah, and I think he's like referencing the idea. Something that Mitch McConnell said, which is if we get rid of the filibuster, Mitch McConnell, minority leader in the Senate, is going to do everything he can to stop progress from happening. He's already doing that.
Exactly.
Why are we letting them get away with this?
Bro is just a relic of a bygone era.
Mitch McConnell is the minority leader in the Senate. He does not have more power than Chuck Schumer does. Why are we letting him get away with just saying, like, I'm going to throw the Senate into chaos? Why does he get to throw a fit anytime we get to get
Like
rid
a
of
little
his
fucking
obstructionist
baby.
tool?
Like
Yeah.
a little baby, little toddler, little turtle.
Again, more evidence that Republicans do not care about you, and they never will.
Bro, if only he could have made like a sea turtle and just like, not made it off the beach,
Oh my God, Mitch McConnell's a sea turtle. Mitch McConnell's a sea turtle. We're getting to the end of the town hall here, but a couple more questions. One of them was about gun violence, which has been on the rise. One questioner asked about making cities safer and how Biden's really going to do that.
He drew a really weird distinction though at the beginning of the question. He drew a distinction between crime and gun violence.
Yeah.
what do you mean by that? Because I know he's not referencing the idea that a lot of gun violence statistics are overinflated by suicide rates.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand what he was getting at with that.
I don't really know either, because Biden, we've talked about this before. I think it was the first episode on the pod, that crime tends to be a function of economic conditions.
Yes.
The poorer the neighborhood is, the more likely there is to be crime, and violent crime is a subsequent product of that.
Poverty is the mother of crime.
But Biden didn't talk about economic conditions here, really. He just talked about the normal Democrat rhetoric, background checks, implementing stricter regulations and stuff like that, which, I mean, I guess. That's something that needs to happen, but I don't know.
The only notable, policy thing I took out of his answer is that he said that he would be cracking down on gun shops that are circumventing background checks and selling weapons illegally, which is just a thing that should be happening already.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. If you really want to decrease crime overall, you got to lift communities out of poverty. Gun violence doesn't happen in wealthy communities.
Not at all. And it's when you want to talk gun violence, it's a really weird subject.
Yeah.
Because most of the rhetoric is centered from the Democrats around assault weapons. But when you break it down, yes, these are weapons that commit mass murders. They're capable of doing horrible things. But that's not what most gun deaths are from.
Yeah.
It's from smaller handguns. I don't disagree that you don't need an assault rifle, but I think that the Democratic rhetoric is centered around the wrong issue.
Yeah, definitely. And Biden also made the point that a lot of the cases of gun violence that we see happen from guns that are bought illegally.
Yes.
They're not marked by the government. The government doesn't know these people have them.
Mm-hmm.
So the real way to solve this isn't going to necessarily be placing restrictions on guns, which is something that we need to do anyway.
Yeah.
But the real thing that's going to solve this problem is lifting people out of poverty, because when you solve the material conditions people are exposed to, their behavior is going to change as well.
It's lifting people out of poverty, and it's solving the mental health crisis.
Yeah. And then after that question, they went on to talk about police a little bit, because it's kind of linked into
this
gun
shit was
violence
so
as well.
bad.
Yeah, it is really bad. Don Lemon mentioned that with talks of gun violence on the rise and increases in crime, of course, police are going to be linked into that. Don Lemon asked something along the lines of what do we need to do about the police, defunding the police, etc. The kind of questions like that. Biden basically said we need to pass the George Floyd Act.
Yeah.
But police are good guys and we need more of them.
Out the gate, he said we need more cops.
Yes.
And he also, he said some shit about how their budgets were being cut around around cities and municipalities and counties and whatever the fuck, and factually untrue.
Yeah, demonstrably incorrect.
Police budgets are continuing to balloon. It's just a little bit less than it was a couple years before.
Maybe,
yeah. Literally maybe. NYPD, 6th largest military in the world,
Yeah, it's factually untrue. Police are not being defunded in any meaningful way. We talked about this on the last pod. And also, cracking down on poor communities is not going to help or decrease crime in any way.
Yes.
It is only going to make it harder on minorities. That's it.
He said we need more police, which is just the opposite of the issue. These communities are chronically over-policed. And he did talk about community policing, but I don't have the faith in him to think that he meant what we mean when we say community policing.
Yeah.
This dude's talking about cops, and I'm talking about community outreach, people within the community, hey, bro, chill.
Yeah.
And this dude's talking about people with guns running through and still killing little black kids.
Yeah. Here's the thing, is that Biden said he's not ever going to support defunding the police, and that he never has, which isn't new.
No.
This isn't
Obama said the same shit.
Out. Yeah. We're not finding out that he doesn't support defund the police. He didn't run on defund the police. He said in debates that he doesn't support defunding the police. But the thing is that unless we defund the police are going to continue to act in ways that are similar to small armies.
Yes.
And they're going to continue cracking down on poor people and minority communities. That's just the case. That's how it has been in this country for the longest time.
Possibly the best part of his response, but simultaneously the worst part of his response, was that he said people don't want to be cops anymore because everybody's talking bad about the cops. Really, dog? Really?
When I heard that, all I could think was he is so out of touch with the debate around policing in this country.
The epitome of white boomer male.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense. He's saying that people don't want to be police when the police budgets are still massively overinflated.
And we still have over-policing in every minority community.
Yeah. The way that we solve crime, like we talked about, is investing in resources like education, healthcare, childcare, etc. And those funds can come from the police budgets that basically function as militias.
First off, get rid of the idea that schools are funded by property taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Because we know that this just manifests itself in desperate outcomes for minority communities.
No other successful country does it the way that we do it.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid.
Yeah. And like we said, Biden is just out of touch on the issue of police. I don't think that's going to change anytime
Not
soon,
at all.
but
I
that
wouldn't
was his
expect
answer.
anything from this administration. Kamala's a cop.
The last real, actually the last two sections that Biden talked about was first the opioid crisis, which is still very much alive.
Oh, yeah.
Big pharma companies legally sell drugs to patients and cause them to either become addicted or overdose or both.
They're all overprescribed.
So, I mean, terrible stuff, really. The opioid crisis has been going on for a very long time. The questioner that came up to ask Biden about this was actually a mother who had a son that died because they overdosed on drugs that were sold to them by big pharma companies. It was actually really sad and actually a touching moment within
especially
the town hall.
with Biden, since, his struggles with Hunter.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that was also a humanizing moment for Biden because he talked about his son, but his answer on this I found to be really lackluster.
I thought it was lackluster. I did think it was his most base take the whole town hall, though. He talked about, he said, God, what was it? That people shouldn't go to jail for drugs, which should be the bare minimum, decriminalize all drugs, and that they should be mandatory rehab. And even if they're in jail for another offense, they should be getting help for their addiction within the jail.
Yeah.
And then he sort of finished that off by saying that all felons should have full access to like public amenities programs and grants that are based on income.
Yeah. I did think that part was actually really good. But the part that I thought was a little bit lackluster was how he talked about actually punishing big pharma for getting these people addicted to drugs.
Yeah, no.
Because I
That
do
shit was
think
bad.
it is critical that we stop criminalizing people for being addicted to drugs when it's not their fault.
Yeah,
or even
100%.
if it is their fault.
Countries
they should
that
not be
have
thrown in jail.
decriminalized drugs have seen just amazing results. What is it?
Yeah.
Portugal?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, that is actually a really good take from Joe Biden, and I think that is a policy that we need to see implemented during his tenure as president. I don't know if we will, but you're right. That is really important. But what I thought was lackluster was that Biden really only talked about intercepting drug trade at the border.
Oh,
He said something along the lines of drugs are being manufactured in China, sent to Mexico, then they are travel across the border and end up in our patients that need painkillers.
And I think he's also just talking about regular illicit drugs like cocaine, weed, you know, the gamut.
Which is like whatever, but it's not really going to do much to stop big pharma from getting our American citizens addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these drugs come from corporations, and a lot of drug trades happen at legal points of entry.
Exactly.
So it's not like cutting drug trade off at the southern border isn't really going to do anything. We talked about this when we talked about immigration on the first pod. It's not going to do that much.
Yeah, it's not. And I think that it also, right now in the current political climate, unintentionally just continues Trump's rhetoric about everyone coming from the southern borders, an MS-13 gang member trying to sell your kid cocaine.
Right, which almost leads perfectly into the last point that Biden made during the town hall, which is also the worst by far, which was his stance on immigration.
But I think he had a good moment near
about
the
DACA?
end. Yes,
Yeah,
that
I
was
agree.
touching and emotional. He was getting angry about that. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Biden basically doubled down on the sentiment of Kamala Harris saying, "Do not come.
Do not come.
Do not come."
I'm gonna come.
He basically doubled down on this and said that, like, you need to start seeking asylum in other countries, or if you want to seek asylum in the United States, you can go to another country and then wait until we allow you to come in.
Seek asylum from the country that
Yeah.
you currently need to flee because you're in danger, or you feel as if you're in danger. Just go to the U.S. Embassy.
This answer is so brutal because why are we expecting people to seek asylum in countries that we ravage or internally sabotage? It's just so amoral. And his answer is just in line with what all other presidents have been saying. I mean, what is he really saying that is different than Trump here?
It is borderline reactionary rhetoric.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Let people into the country if they need to. But his one good answer on immigration was his point on DACA.
Yeah.
Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It's a program that has existed since the Obama administration.
Like beginning of Obama. And it was just challenged by a federal judge. He's saying that we need to get rid of it.
Can't remember what state it was, but yes.
I think that's where the question comes from. Because that shit was like breaking news last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one state, I can't remember which one, basically challenged DACA in court and was trying to make it so no more applicants could be processed for the program. Yes. And the program basically its function is to protect childhood immigrants. People that come to the country with their parents when they're like 5 years old, they have no choice, and now they're in the country, providing for the country, creating economic wealth for the country. They shldn't be kicked out.
They're
That's what
paying
DACA is.
taxes. They're paying their fair share in taxes. They're doing everything a regular U.S. citizen should, but with added restrictions. If there's a single smudge on their criminal record, they're deported to a country where they possibly can't even speak the language, where they may know no one.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect program, but it absolutely needs to stay in place and be reformed.
People that have lived here their entire life, whether they cross the border illegally or legally, deserve to be able to stay here.
Yes.
And basically, that's what DACA does for child immigrants. That basically wraps up the town hall. Wonder what your thoughts are on it.
Overall, kind of insufferable to sit through.
Yeah.
I was incredibly bored through the COVID stuff because it was bad. And the overall town hall was just so lacking from anything. But I can't say I didn't expect this outcome.
Yeah, we didn't get anything new. They didn't even touch on things like education. They didn't touch on climate change, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We didn't get anything new out of Biden. There was nothing that was like, whoa, crazy, unexpected.
Yeah.
He had a couple of good answers, but
Probably
nothing
like
crazy.
maybe 2 or 3 base takes total.
Yeah,
maybe.
It was pretty lackluster and really just in line with what he's been doing. He didn't surprise us.
Yeah, you know, bro, it's stale approval rating.
Yeah.
This is why.
Yeah. All right, moving on to some more recent news before we wrap up the pod. The first thing is some updates on the January 6th Commission, which is in the House. It's the commission to investigate what happened on January 6th and how to prevent it in the future.
The BLM Antifa attack.
Oh, yeah, the BLM Antifa attack, where it was definitely not Trump inciting an insurrection or anything
Exactly,
like that.
and we shouldn't investigate it because I know it was BLM Antifa because this guy had a picture at some other protest
There
rally.
wasn't known white supremacists there.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason this is in the news is because Pelosi recently denied 2 Republican members from being appointed to the committee, which then prompted Kevin McCarthy to remove all Republican members from the committee except Liz Cheney. Those 2 people that were denied were Jim Jordan and Jim Banks. I don't know much about Jim Banks.
Neither do I.
I don't know much about him, but I know Jim Jordan is a terrible human being.
Oh, good shit.
They both voted to ensure that Trump could try to overturn the election. They both supported Trump's false claims of there being massive voter fraud and the election being stolen. So, like, they don't deserve to be on the committee that investigates the actions they perpetuated. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make any sense. Republicans are now calling this House Commission partisan, as if the situation wasn't already partisan.
Literally.
I mean,
I wonder who's calling it partisan. Maybe Madison Cawthorn? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe that guy.
Maybe that guy.
It's like Trump was the one that incited an insurrection on the Capitol. Of course, it's going to be partisan.
Oh yeah.
He got impeached for it. Like, it's going to be partisan naturally. They can't get mad when Nancy Pelosi's trying to include them, and then they appoint some motherfucker like Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, that was the same guy who was screaming during both impeachment trials. The one about Ukraine and then the one about the insurrection.
Fun guy.
It's not surprising.
Must be fun at parties.
Yeah, and then a recent report kind of just hammered home the reason we need this commission. And it revealed that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, the same guy that grilled Matt Gaetz on critical race theory like 2 weeks ago or whatever, he was worried about an actual coup under Trump, and he made a plan in case Trump tried to commit a coup. He made a plan with all the other military generals to resign in the event that Trump was like, I'm overthrowing the government. Which shows that Mark Milley was actually worried about this.
Shouts out that guy.
Yeah, but it's reason for concern. Like, it's reason that the January 6th Commission needs to exist because if it doesn't, then we can't really investigate what happened. And there's truth to what happened. There's truth that Trump incited the insurrection because someone in the government, separate from Congress, was worried about a coup.
Exactly. Someone in one of the most reactionary wings of the American government.
Yeah.
Like, that's scary.
Yeah. Basically, I don't know what's going to happen with this commission. Do you think that it's going to come up with anything that people are actually going to believe?
I don't think it's going to mean anything. And I don't even know if I think I want it to be a thing. Because what is it really going to do? You know, like, what good is going to come from this? All that has come from it so far is more conservative outrage, more conservative meme pages. You know how that go. My Explore page is putrid.
I don't really know. It's hard to predict what conservatives are going to do to weaponize whatever comes out of it. They'll come up with something.
They've just been weaponizing it this whole time.
Yeah, they have been. I don't know what specific points they're going to latch on to. I just think it's important that Democrats do this for our own sake, just so we know what we're dealing with moving forward.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be used to convince any Republican to like switch sides or have a change of faith.
Yeah.
Especially like on the federal level, but not even voters. I don't think it's really going to do anything because it's going to be viewed as partisan. Even if it was bipartisan,
No
they probably
what.
wouldn't believe it because Trump's going to deny it, just as he denied the accusations by Mark Milley.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what's going to happen with it. I just think that it's going to be good for the left to get as much information out of it as we can, and that's really all it's going to be used for.
I guess, I suppose, maybe I'm just being a cynic here, but I feel like the commission will do nothing for the large portion of the God, I was about to say fucking audience. The
Us, we're
the
the
audience, yeah,
We're the
us,
audience.
the audience, the large portion of the American public that don't follow any of this stuff. This is not going to mobilize voters that don't vote because they're disenfranchised with the political system. This is just to appease the politics nerds.
I don't even know if it's to appease, though, because there was a terrorist attack
That's
on the
facts.
Capitol.
This
Like,
is facts.
And I mean,
People showed up with ropes.
It'll appease political pundits to have this thing investigated, and like reactionaries will talk about it, liberal pundits will talk about it, everyone's going to talk about it. But I think it's very important that we pull out as much information as we can because they're going to try this again.
Oh, yeah. I agree there. I just don't know if it's really going to do anything for the larger public.
Maybe not, but I know that they're going to try this again. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, last time when it happened, there were a few Republicans that didn't go along with it, that made sure that it wasn't the entire party that was going along with Trump's lie, which is like, okay, you did the bare minimum. But in the future, what if it's a House and a Senate that's controlled by Republicans, and then they all go along with it?
Yeah. What if Matt Gaetz is the Republican nominee after he gets out of prison in a couple years?
No, from prison.
From prison,
It's
he's
just-
the nominee.
We know they're going to try to do something similar in the future. They're not going to certify Democratic election results, or they're going to just do something that makes it so a Democratic president can't win and then Trump is installed or whatever.
Especially-
we need to be prepared.
Especially with the shit that's going on in Arizona right now. Have you been, like, following that?
What do you mean?
So in Arizona, there's been drama about whether or not, I guess, the representatives were going to fly to D.C. and decertify the Arizona results because some people are claiming that like 100,000 ballots were like missing or generated or something.
Wow.
I haven't really been following it. I've only been following it as much as the headlines pop up for my Twitter notifications.
Yeah.
So like that's really it. But I also know that this was the most secure election in American history, so I don't got to worry about it.
Yeah, no, there may have been the smallest amount of voter fraud, like so insignificant that there's no reason to even think about it. There's no way that it impacted any result in any state whatsoever. But other than that, this election was entirely safe and entirely democratic, the most democratic we have ever had.
Shouts out to the Republican, and I think it was Pennsylvania, maybe somewhere in the country, that casted a ballot for his dead mother.
Yeah.
For Trump. So, shouts
Yeah,
out
that's
that
the
guy.
real voter fraud.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right
exactly.
there.
A lot of the voter fraud was just for Trump.
Yeah. Last point on just like the Capitol 6 stuff. I know the first person was actually like sentenced to prison this last week. He got like 8 months. He was one of the dudes that came through with like ropes or a zip tie or something. So
Jesus.
like, good shit.
Good Lord, yeah. We need to investigate these people. I don't know what effect it's really going to have, but we know they're going to try again. And probably sooner than we want.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Much sooner than
maybe
we'll
the
be prepared
midterms,
for.
maybe.
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 Moving on to another thing that was in the news.
We got penis rocket.
Everyone's favorite penis rocket. Everyone's favorite penis. Jeff Bezos was in space.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Bezos last week went to space for 10 minutes with 3 other passengers. They flew, well, they basically edged space in the Blue Origin capsule.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Oh, no.
They were in a Blue Origin capsule, which is Jeffrey Bezos's
space company.
Yeah, whatever. They all have
dumb
one
shit.
now. He's, I think, the second billionaire to do it now. Richard Branson did it before him, which I don't even know who that guy is, really.
Oh, God.
But I know he
Yeah.
beat him.
I know what you're talking about. He has
He's like
done
the
it before.
Virgin, was it Virgin Space something or other?
Something like that. And didn't he fly just like a little bit lower? It was like in a plane. Like some type of plane. It wasn't in a
basically.
rocket like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos
bro.
went out farther than him, I believe. But, I mean, this is in the news. Jeff Bezos said, "Thank you to Amazon workers and Amazon customers because you paid for it."
He said, "Thank you to everyone who works basically slave labor in my warehouses. Shout out Bessemer, Alabama. You know? Yeah, shout out Vesemir. Thank you for not unionizing so I can fuck around in space for 10 minutes.
No, this is crazy because he called out the game. Like, people usually don't do this, especially someone like him who's the richest person on the planet. He has more wealth than kings had back when we had, like, theocracies and monarchies.
You are funding my fun.
Yeah, he directly said, you are suffering and I'm not.
Exactly. I'm having a great time. I
your
just went to fucking space.
At your expense. Jeff Bezos gets to go to space while workers get to suffer through working conditions and not having a union.
That's right.
And consumers continue to be ripped off. And what's crazy is the conservative reaction to this has been like vote with your dollar rhetoric. Which, by the way, voting with your dollar doesn't work.
Fucking work. Consumer side activism does not work.
Your individual abstention from buying from Amazon is not going to change a thing in the grand scheme of society.
There are, fucking 7-8 billion people on this earth?
Yeah.
It's like, it's good to not support these companies, but I'm just disillusioned with consumer side activism.
Yeah.
Especially when that is peddled instead of systemic change.
Yeah. And the only reason Bezos and other billionaires are wanting to go to space or did go to space is because they want to, one, monopolize commercial space flight, and two, they want to mine asteroids.
Exactly.
That's it. That's all that they want to do.
Which is, like, cool. Mining asteroids is cool and all. But, like, I'm so mad at just, like, the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, bro wasted so much fucking money, you know? Commercial spaceflight is cool. The, like, nerd in me wants to be like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, people get to go to space, you know? But $28 million a ticket, I'm never gonna be able to do that.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos gets to go to space with money that he made off of the backs of working class people while we continue to suffer here and make a podcast in a basement.
Exactly, bro. In the gutter. I'm gonna have student debt for
the gutter
the majority of my life.
Oh yeah,
this guy gets to go to space.
I'm gonna be in debt because I wanted to get an education forever.
Exactly.
Forever.
Because I wanted to maybe get a good job, because you gotta have like a master's degree to get $15 an hour in this stupid fucking country.
Yeah.
College is a racket.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm conflicted about is that this technology is so important.
Oh yeah.
It's very important that we develop technology that gets us to space, into other planets, because that's what we're going to have to do in the future, especially if we trash Earth enough like we are right now. But I hate that it's being left to billionaires to do.
It shouldn't be
and
private.
It doesn't have to.
It shouldn't be private. You should slash the military budget, give it to NASA.
Yeah, exactly. NASA needs to be funded more.
Like,
we cannot leave this giant technological advancement up to billionaires. And I've heard comparisons being drawn, like, between Bezos and the Wright brothers, the people who created the first airplane, which is ridiculous. Like, yes, they created the airplane, but that was, 100 years ago?
That was, like, just barely post-industrial society.
Right, and they weren't, like, the richest people on the planet.
Yeah.
Like,
they're just two dudes fucking around.
Yeah, it is wholly different. And also, look at the airline industry now.
It's shit.
Is that what you want spaceflight to be like?
Oh my god, literally.
Like, look how that turned out. It wasn't a good thing.
You want to go on the space equivalent of Spirit?
Exactly. You don't want to go on Delta in space. I promise.
No.
I promise you don't want that. And that's what it's going to be like if we let these billionaires continue to control it. It is insane.
It's not even just like, maybe it'd be just a smidge better if they were funding this wholly from private enterprise, but they're subsidized by the government.
Yeah.
Why is the government subsidizing these programs, these private programs, when we have our own?
Yeah. It's going to do nothing to actually help people, not in the short term or the long term. People are just going to continue to be exploited so billionaires can go to space. And when regular people actually get to other planets in 100, 200 years, whatever it is, they're just going to be slaves on Mars.
Yep.
That's all it's going to be.
Yep.
And I hate that it's being left to billionaires because space is so cool and this technology is so important.
Funny part about the best part about the story is the interview he had with, was it CNN or MSNBC?
I can't remember.
Like at whatever shitlib news network that he had the interview with. This dude laughs like a villain.
Oh my god,
She's I don't even know what she said. It wasn't even that funny. This dude goes, oh.
Yeah, he's a villain. Dude is Lex Luthor in real life. He's so scary.
And then he starts talking about how he's like, wow, the atmosphere is so thin up there. Once you actually like get up there and you can see it all, you realize just how important it is to just climate change is a really important issue, and we need to move all these polluting industries into space, and I'm going to be the one who does it, and it's going to make me fucking a quadrillionaire, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's so This dude is so insufferable, and it pisses me off to be seeing him talk about how cool space is in his fucking cowboy hat and cowboy boots.
Stupid
while
fucking
all
cowboy
of his
boots,
workers
too.
are suffering and cannot even afford to put food on the table for their family.
God. And then he said something. He's like, when you're up there, you really realize
Oh my
that
God.
there are no borders. It's like, oh, wow. I wonder who's been saying that for a while.
Yeah.
Like, you really don't act like there's no borders, Jeff.
Yeah, and I've seen some libs say that maybe Jeff Bezos got a different take on like the world. He's got a different perspective now that he saw the world and how small it is from outer space. This dude's not going to change anything.
No, all he saw, he probably did get a new perspective. What he probably saw is a bunch of ants that he can fucking step on and make work in his factory.
He said, more people for me to exploit. The world is much bigger than I thought it was. I'm taking it all.
He said, you see Australia? That's going to be the biggest Amazon distribution center. The global, the solar systemal one.
He saw the United States and he said, that's going to be the United States of Amazon.
He said, I'm going to own that one day.
That's the name of the episode. United States of Amazon,
fire,
right there.
Fire.
All right, moving on to an issue that Jeff Bezos actually brought up, which was climate change. And let me just preface, Jeff Bezos brought up climate change, but he actually does not care about climate change in any capacity.
Oh, no. Like, the most maybe I've seen him do is, like, all Amazon trucks are going to be, like, Amazon is going to be a net zero company by, like, 2040.
Yeah.
Or 2050 or something like that. But by then, we're already going to have irreversible damage done. And the problem isn't even really Amazon when you think about it, because Amazon isn't the manufacturer. Yeah. They're still going to be using all this unethical, just polluting manufacturing over in China and India and other countries like that. It's like, what are you really doing?
And that's the point I was going to make, is that Amazon and Jeff Bezos are still going to be entangled in other corporations that pollute infinitely more than Amazon will.
Oh my God, yeah.
So he's not actually going to be doing anything to drive down carbon emissions except for, like, fixing Amazon itself, which like is a step in the right direction, but it's not going to work. Yeah, it's not going to do anything.
It's just not as good as people are making it out to be, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the metal straw thing.
Yeah.
It's like the metal straw thing.
Anyway, we bring up climate change because there's been reports of wildfires in the Northwest, specifically in California and parts of Canada. Even New York City has seen the wildfire smoke from the West Coast all the way on the East Coast. So you know it's like an issue.
Yeah.
Dry storms are expected to travel along all of the West Coast with lightning that's only going to exacerbate the issue. Not to mention it's hitting like 120 degrees in places like Oregon,
Arizona,
and southern Canada, and also
Death
Arizona.
Valley. Like Arizona has been regularly 110 to 120 recently.
Yeah, I mean, and people are still saying climate change is not happening. People are literally baking.
California is literally hell.
Yeah.
Constantly on fire all the time.
California is literally on fire again. Ecosystems and homes are being destroyed. It wasn't even mentioned during the town hall.
Yep.
Nobody asked a single question about climate change, which is just like climate change is being pushed to like just another issue that people need to talk about when really it is the issue.
Yeah.
Like it is the most existential crisis we're facing.
And it's like corporations will never have to pay reparations for the irreversible damage that they have done to the climate. And this goes to another point. I was having a conversation with my mom earlier, right? Because our power...
Big shout out.
Shouts out to Mom. You know, love you. Our power went out earlier, and it was out for upwards of 10 hours. And we were starting to get worried because we just bought a fuck ton of groceries yesterday. Mm-hmm. And if your power's out long enough, all those groceries, done for, gone, axed.
Yeah.
We don't get reimbursed for that.
Nope.
Our fucking $200, $300, whatever it was, grocery bill it's gone.
Yeah.
That money is nowhere except the hands of the Waltons, you know?
Oh, true.
Companies never have to pay for like the implicit costs of their actions, because I'm sure consumers like fucked up and like hit a line, did something, made a quick oopsie, oh no, you don't have power.
Yeah, no, you're never going to see that money again. And if those groceries had spoiled, you got to go back to the grocery store and spend another $200.
Right, or maybe they spoiled, you didn't know it, you ate it, you got sick. That's $20,000 in medical debt.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's just more evidence that we need to upgrade our infrastructure to protect the climate.
Yes.
Yeah. The question now is, what is Congress really going to do about it? Probably nothing. There are climate provisions that are included in the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that is not going up yet, again, separate from the $1.2 trillion regular infrastructure bill that Joe Biden was talking about during the town hall. But the reconciliation bill includes the goals of like 80% clean electricity and 50% economy-wide carbon emissions by 2030. It also includes clean energy standards, vehicle tax incentives, and electrification of buildings, among a bunch of other stuff. Joe Manchin, of course, has signaled that he may not support climate provisions. He said something along the line.
Dude.
Yeah, me too. He said something along the lines of like, it's a little bit troubling to see Democrats putting this in the bill.
Why?
Which is like, this is infrastructure,
Come
dog.
on, Joe.
Just give me a crumb.
Please.
A crumb of hope.
Please.
Which is wild that he's gonna say no to it, and also Republicans, because it creates jobs.
Yeah.
Investing in climate creates a whole new job market, which is focused on clean energy.
Oh, yeah.
It's ridiculous. And fixing the climate, I'll remind you, is not completely on the U.S. It's not up to the U.S. to fix the world's climate. But if we don't lead the way, we can't say anything about it to other countries.
I don't even know. Again, I'm going to be on my cynic shit. I don't even think the U.S. can really do much to stop it, because it's the whole reason we've seen so much capital flight recently to countries like China, wherever, India, where the manufacturing is happening, because they have less regulations.
Yeah.
We need global reforms
Yeah.
to be able to
Yeah.
fix this issue.
We will have to use our diplomatic levers to be able to pressure other countries into having stricter regulations around climate.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I don't think that we really have the standing to do that, because we have done nothing to really fix climate in our own country.
Yeah, we joined the Paris Accords again, which doesn't really
It's really
do
just a
much for
document.
us. Yeah, it's kind of
just a document.
performative.
Yeah.
A little bit of slacktivism from the U.S. government.
I mean, they had like at the G7 or the G20 one, whichever one met like a month ago. They had like jets fly over top
Yep.
of them during a picture, which is like
Unnecessary.
emitting fuel when they're supposed, or they're emitting emissions when they're supposed to be meeting about the climate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, come on, people. How hypocritical are we going to be and then expect other countries to follow suit
We're just gonna accept
in our
this?
climate reforms? It's ridiculous. And I would submit that climate change, an issue like climate change, is just a symptom of capitalism.
100%.
Because capitalism is built fundamentally on individual profit. The free market cannot and will not address systemic issues like
yeah.
climate change, like racism, like poverty, etc. Like Jeff Bezos and other billionaires, they may adopt the literal, or not the literal, but the liberal talking points and the liberal rhetoric around climate, but their factories and products and partners are going to continue to pollute.
Exactly.
And they're just going to move everything into space like Jeff
Because
Bezos
those
said.
deals will be a little hush-hush in the background, you know?
Yeah. We need strong government action around climate, something that happens on the world scale, global reforms like Gage said. So, I don't know. It's sad to see, but that's the update on climate.
Not even is it just that capitalism is built on individual profit. Capitalism incentivizes cutting costs as much as you can get
Yep.
away with in pursuit of profit. Climate
Yep.
change is a symptom of the profit motive.
Yeah. Under capitalism, you are incentivized to screw everything and everyone over if it means that you will succeed.
Oh, yeah.
And that is exactly what people do.
Within your legal limits.
Sometimes not even within your legal limits.
Oh yeah, no.
I mean, they
actually,
commit crimes.
most of the time it's not within legal
Yeah,
limits.
most
actually,
of the time, billionaires are just criminals anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Big Pharma. All of those people are criminals.
bro.
All of them.
Shouts out, what is it, 14th century Chinese philosopher Zhu Zhang. The petty thief goes to jail while the big thief,
Becomes
becomes feudal lord.
feudal lord. That's right. Anyways, that's all we got on the pod. I hope you like living in the United States of Amazon moving forward.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy the episode. Remember to leave a 5-star review if it's on Apple.
Don't
Those
forget to
people
like
never
and
put it on
subscribe
Apple.
on YouTube.
Like and subscribe on YouTube, because this will be up on YouTube on Wednesday too. It's Wednesday right now if you're listening.
Oh shit,
So,
true.
Welcome to
true.
Wednesday.
Maybe you could listen Wednesday. And then you're like, damn, I'm fiending for some head in the office, you know?
Yeah.
Subscribe to the Patreon.
Oh, they're feeding for some head in the office.
That's right.
Some
maybe
head in the
maybe both,
office.
you know, a quick double entendre. Bam. Get it on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. Get on the Patreon, become a patron. You'll have access to all of our exclusive content moving forward.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll throw some goodies in there for you.
Maybe a couple little PMs, you know?
Oh, maybe some
Couple little
PMs.
PMs on Patreon.
PMs in your DMs.
Oh shit, bro.
But thank you for listening, and we will talk to you all next week.
Exactly. See ya.
Bye, everyone.